let's head back to the conversation now about this new policy in Nigeria's electricity sector. We have Professor Yemi Oke joining us via Zoom from the UK. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Ladi. I'm happy to join you guys.
Fantastic. So we're seeing this this new policy now. We see BPE now does not have the power of attorney over the DisCos in Nigeria. That's been moved to the Ministry of Finance. What is your perspective on this termination? Because we know normally the BPE is supposed to handle all of this, but now that has been moved to Murphy. Tell us your perspective on this. Is this good?
Yeah, I think speaking frankly and from the point of view of what we know, in the first instance, the government is trying to undo the anomalies that we've had in the system. One, ordinarily, BPE, Bureau of Public Enterprises, should not have been in charge of those assets in the first instance, because by structure, it's meant to divest government's interest, midwifing privatization processes, commercialization, and what have you. So it shouldn't be the one to hold the asset. We've already had Murphy in place, that is Ministry of Finance Incorporated, as a special purpose vehicle to hold government assets. So when the power of attorney was given to BPE, we thought that wasn't right, appropriately, because BPE at some point would be an interested party, because the asset will be with the BPE. BPE is to midwife the privatization or sale of the restructuring of government assets, and is going to be in charge of those assets. With that, BPE will ordinarily be conflicted. So the ideal position will have been to keep it, or warehouse it in a special purpose vehicle like the Murphy, Minister of Finance Incorporated, initially. So what was wrongly done is now being reversed. The proper thing to do would be to move it to the SPV, which has been done. A good move. One, the power of attorney naturally would be converted in an entity to either revocably or irrevocably. So the power of attorney given by the federal government to the Bureau of Public Enterprises was a kind of revocable power of attorney, meaning the donor can at any point, for whatever reason, based on the terms, revoke the power to convert in the donor. And that's exactly what has happened here for the purpose of asset of the federal government in the DisCos, in the 11 DisCos. I think the government actually acted in the right direction. It shouldn't have been in the custody of BP right from the onset.
So in your view, this is the right move at this time. But we're seeing other assets also being moved to Murphy at this time. Is there a risk Murphy might get a little burdened, with all of these assets being moved, into their care?
Yeah, I have my fears, just as you have said. Murphy might, of course, subsequently become too powerful and too strategic. If you recall, when NNPC, the whole NNPC became NNPC Health, NNPC Limited as a going concern, the shares of the federal government is being warehoused by the same Murphy, meaning it should be the one as a SPV to hold the government shares in those in NNPC Health, and may divest, say part of the shares or hold. The law is there, is contained explicitly in the Petroleum Industry Act. Murphy is warehousing federal government shares in the power sector. Murphy is warehousing trillion naira, several billions of dollar asset of NNPC Limited. So what do we need to do? We expect at some point to see policy direction that will lead to a restructuring of those shares, maybe selling some or keeping some. I don't want to speculate for the government, but the signs are out there. And some of us as industry watchers had expected that the federal government, the current federal government, is going to descend heavily in the power sector, because that is the governor. When he was a governor, the current president now had experimented with Aaron Lagos project that got botched, maybe due to federal might allegedly. But now, the same person who had experimented with the series of reforms in the power sector is now sitting on the table. So the issue of federal might is now vested in, is now the federal might. So as we say in Africa, he has the yam and the knife. So we expect, and we have speculated, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to take decisive steps and actions in the power sector. And one thing is clear, how the pillars that Nigerians who are willing or who most likely judge the current administration most critically based on his performance in the power sector. Because here is a man who had attempted doing certain things that the federal government perhaps did not allow him to do, and destiny now put him in the same position. Is now the federal mind, and Nigerians are trying to see what it makes out of the power sector, because the sector is challenged and is one of the major challenges that we're facing in the country.
But why do you think the power of attorney is just being revoked now? And was NERC, that's the power sector regulator, duly notified of this move?
That's a major challenge because industry players have been saying, oh, NERC NEC, the regulator, was not informed, was not in the picture. Some are saying there's no federal government will have acted without informing the NERC, the regulator. I can't speak for the federal government and I cannot speak for NERC. But ideally, the NERC ought to have been informed. And I want to presume, wrongly or rightly, that NERC had been in the know, maybe by way of intelligence, by way of whatever, maybe there might have been a kind of direct or indirect communication from the federal government, Minister of Finance, Incorporated, Minister of Finance, proper federal government, and appropriate bureaucracies in government. I assume, I'm not sure. But then, if in the unlikely event that NERC has not been informed, is a slap on the NERC, and it goes to show that there's a loss of trust, because some of us felt NERC wasn't doing enough as a serious-minded regulator in the sector. You can imagine a situation in which you are the authority in charge. You are in charge, and we have 98% of the DisCos, as we speak, being technically insolvent, and Nigerians are expecting electricity. That's not going to happen. Because, the facts are there, a lot of issues in the power sector. I guess that's not what we're here to discuss today. But if the federal government wasn't feeling comfortable enough to put the regulator NERC in the picture, maybe they suspected certain things. But their deep position will have been to notify the NERC as to those steps. But then, if that wasn't done, as I said, I would suspect maybe lack of trust or something, which the government has right to move its chairs anyway. So the issue of procedural irregularities or something is something that's not significant in this context. The most important thing is that the federal government has moved its chairs legitimately, appropriately, duly, and the right thing to do also to Minister of Finance Incorporated movement. They were awaiting the next line of the series of steps to be taken by the current administration in the power sector, which is crucial, in line with it as an 8-point agenda and the promises made to Nigerians.
Right. So we get, at the end of the day, the federal government is making this move. I want to believe for efficiency, in that sector. And I'm sure most Nigerians want to know, does that mean that, the power sector is going to perform better? Are we going to get, constant power, with this move at this time?
I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic that the right thing will happen in the power sector, or the right thing should happen in the power sector. The body language of the current administration shows that it's ready to do the right thing. I've always advocated knowledge-based sector governance and regulation. That is not about to happen. I've not seen that, and I hope that will eventually happen. Whether or not these steps will redress the challenges in the power sector, the answer is yes and no. It's yes if government follows through with subsequent measures, subsequent steps that will crystallize those steps into fruition. I can't speak for government. Two, it might not really be a success story if it's still business as usual. One, the government is part of the blame. The government is the regulator in the power sector. The government is sitting on the largest major chunk in the power sector, meaning the 40% stakes of the federal government in the 11 DisCos is federal government's asset. So if you have a company that you are like the major shareholder, because the remaining shares of those DisCos are fragmented, some having 10, some having 15, and what have you. Even there's the allegation of the fact that there is the 20% shares which ought to be for stakeholders in the power sector, and that has been diluted into the pocket of certain players. So we need to trace where the remaining 20% stakes in the power sector has gone to. Government has 40, stakeholders are supposedly holding 20. We don't know where that is for now, and the investors are holding 40. And the investors, of course, they come in a kind of consortium, like 3, 4, 5. So the shares is fragmented. Government is holding the major share, and you are the owner technically of the sector that is not doing well. You are also the owner of TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria, that is not doing well. You are also the one who put the regulators in place, and we're not seeing serious regulation in the power sector. And the power sector is collapsing on all of us. And all is not wrong with the country, because we can't really do anything major unless we fix the challenges of the power sector. The signs are out there. And I'm glad when the president went to Germany, of course, he brought up the issue of Siemens and others with the chancellor. And I've always been pessimistic about the Siemens move and assistant administration.
Right, definitely. We're hoping, 2024 is going to be different. If we're a country that wants to produce, we definitely need to get the power sector running well, so we can have constant power, so we can produce more. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, Professor Yemi Oke, Professor of Energy, Electricity Law, University of Lagos. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Ladi, for having me.